Okay, welcome everybody to Modify Your Mindset webinar. We're so excited that you have joined us. So many of you who are joining, we actually just invited everybody, but many of you, we were going to have an in-person, oh my, yes. Someone else was sharing their screen. That's okay. We love it. Okay, so many of you were planning to join us today in Utah in Kaysville, and as you know, there is something going on worldwide. It's called the pandemic. It's called the corona, and so we are all in our houses. And you know what? I think that it gives us an opportunity to kind of slow down. It's just interesting, and that's some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Is where are you coming from? What's your direction that you're facing with your mindset, and what are the things that are helping you move forward and to accomplish the things that you want in your life, and what are the things that are holding you back? So we're going to be giving you guys a lot of good stuff today, but I love it. Find the chat. And if you would just say where you're from, where you're joining us from, we would love to see where everybody is joining us from in the chat as we get going. So here's what I wanted to start with. What are you hoping to get out of this webinar today? And I actually asked people when they registered for our Kaysville event, I asked them what they were hoping to get from our event that we had planned today. And here were some of the answers. Better health, more control, confidence, curbing emotional eating, motivation, mind strength. So those were some of the things that people said that they were hoping to get. So I want you to put in the chat, what are you hoping to get out of being on this webinar today? There is a reason that you, got up this morning and you got on your phone or your computer and joined this webinar because you could have just seen the reminder on Facebook or the email. You could have seen a text from your coach or your friend and could have completely ignored it and went on with your day. So what is something that you're hoping to get from being on today, or maybe getting unstuck? Okay, so to start us off, let's see. Let's have Kat. You could raise your hand. There you are. Okay. Go ahead and start us off today with some thoughts.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here this morning, and I woke up with a little bit of a cold, so if my voice sounds a little extra sultry today, that's why. Maybe I have the coronavirus, I don't know. But anyway, I want to start off today and talking a little bit about the mind's job. So our mind, our brain is one amazing thing, you guys. And it's out there. It's built there to protect us, to keep us safe. Our minds always, there's this little tiny almond-shaped part of our brain called the amygdala that's just searching constantly for a threat of some kind. This is how we were built. And so our mind's constantly categorizing things. It's judging situations, it's keeping us safe, and it's deciding how the world should be, how we interpret things, how they should be. So I want to just talk really quickly a little bit about how things were a long time ago before we had all the things that we have now in the world. Like 10,000 years ago, our brain recognized a threat and we would fight, flight, freeze, or play dead. Our physical survival was the goal and our amygdala was doing its job. And even though we don't have saber-toothed tigers coming at us today in the world, our brain's still doing the same thing, and what it's protecting is our ego. So this is part of our mind's job, is to protect us. So I want you to just kind of go forward as we learn today together, as we grow today together, and I love reading all of these things that you guys want to get out of this, and I really hope you do, and I hope you open up your mind. And if you start feeling that little bit of a like, I don't know if I believe that, or that's threatening how I think or how things should be, that's your mind's job. So thank it for doing that. And as we move forward, we're gonna talk a little bit more. I want to introduce you to this model. It's called the line. So this is the most important model we know for being a conscious leader. And how many of you want to be, put a 1 in the chat if you want to be a conscious leader. What does that mean? What does it even mean to be a conscious leader? Maybe a few of you share what it means to you to be conscious. This is a binary model. So at any given moment, you're either above the line or below the line. Now, we like to say in Optavia, the leaders who have the most flexibility in thoughts and behavior stand the best chance of success. So we don't necessarily, like I said, at any given moment, you're either above or below the line, but those with the most flexibility are the ones that stand the best chance of success. So when you are above the line, you're living in a by me, a responsive, a curious, a growth mindset. You're looking for the lesson in things. You're living in appreciation, which I'm going to talk a little bit about appreciation versus thankful in just a second. But when you're below the line, you're closed, you're reactive, you're in a place of leadership to me, where everything happens to you. You're reactive, you're defensive, you're recycling the drama in your life. Maybe you want to prove yourself right. That's where this kind of comes from is, and I want you to stop and locate yourself right now. Where are you? Are you in a place of growth? Are you in a place of learning? Are you feeling like you're in an above the line place, or are you in a below the line place? And I want to point something out really, really important to you. At any given moment, in any given time, you can be above or below the line, but it's not right to be above the line and wrong to be below the line, or vice versa. It just is. So one of the first things we want to help you with today is to let go of that good, bad, wrong, right perception that you may have around this place, and just kind of accept yourself for where you are. There's times in my life when it's Wednesday night and the kids aren't in bed, and I'm committed to being below the line and frustrated with them and prove to them why they need to go to bed. There is time, and there's wisdom below the line and above the line. So introducing this model, I want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between thankful and appreciation. So thankfulness is what most people feel when the world shows up how we think it should, right? So I'm so thankful it didn't rain today, or I'm thankful for the rain, maybe. I don't know if it's raining. I can't see outside all the way. But we think that things happen to us. We're at the effect of something else, like the weather. If we think it should be a nice day, then we're thankful it's a nice day. But appreciation is what we create when we allow the world to show up as it is. So it's such a different perception to think of thankful being in a place of below the line and like, I think life should be this way, so I'm thankful when it is, versus I appreciate everything around me that's happening, and that I can accept the world as it is. So that is a really powerful example to me. Like, I think about just some of the examples in our lives, okay? So weather's a super easy one. It should be warm outside. Weight is another one. I should be thinner. We should have gotten enough toilet paper before the drama happened with the coronavirus. Landlords shouldn't raise rent. The music shouldn't be so loud. Software should work. Just things like this. And we're going to talk more about this kind of stuff. But think about in your life what you can be appreciative for, and that you can just be in a space of appreciating how the world is showing up for you. So one of the biggest tools that we have as far as being a conscious leader is self-awareness. So it's the first step in waking up as a leader. It's essential for us to recognize where we are. Now, Amber, could you go to the next slide for me? I love this slide because what about positive thinking, right? Like, okay, here she is. She's at a mall directory, and what's it telling her? It's telling her where you are. Where is she? Well, she's in front of the Fendi store, right? And positive thinking isn't going to get her to the Gucci store. It's not going to change her location. And that's how positive thinking doesn't get us to a different place. I'm not saying not to look for the good and the positive in the world, but we really do need to just get to a place where we can, as straight as it can be, like at a mall directory, that's where you are. Your location is what it is. And with the line, you are either above or below the line. It's not good, it's not bad. She's not good because she's in front of the Fendi store and bad because she's not in front of the Gucci store. She is where she is, and she's accepting that. And positive thinking isn't going to get her somewhere else. So what we do with this line is we locate, where are we? And then we ask ourselves, can I accept myself for where I am right now? If you are fine and you want to be in that place, wherever it is, either above or below the line, and that's where you prefer to be at that moment, then be there. But if you do feel some discomfort, and I know a lot of you on here, you're talking about things like growth, and you're talking about an improved mindset, and you're talking about getting unstuck and things like this. So maybe you have a preference that you want to shift. Maybe you don't want to be in that place where you feel like everything's happening to you. Maybe you want to be in a place where things are happening by you and for you, and you can shift. So that's the third thing, is ask yourself, am I willing to shift? And we're going to talk about a lot of different ways today to shift and how you can be a conscious leader and thank your mind for all the wonderful things that it does to categorize things and help you live a safe life. And we're going to help you recognize, hopefully throughout the day today, or the couple hours we're here, how you can grow in so many different ways that you didn't realize. Because that's one of the things I've noticed in my own life, is how much my mindset affects the way I do everything. Conscious leadership isn't just about business or my weight loss or just one thing in life. It's how we handle everything in life, and recognizing where we are and deciding, do I like where I am, or would I like to shift? And just accepting and self-awareness is huge. So that's the line. I hope it makes sense to you, and I hope you get a lot more out of that today. But it's kind of the intro to all of this. So thank you so much.
Awesome job, Kat. Okay, I love that. This is so foundational that if you find yourself, if you are like accomplishing everything, all of your wildest dreams and more are already happening, then you should probably just keep doing what you're doing, right? Now, if you find that you're not getting somewhere that you're wanting to get, or you feel like your wheels are spinning, or you feel like you keep trying and you keep white knuckling and you keep like doing different things, but nothing's moving forward in your life, then possibly you should look at, what can I do to move forward, right? And so this is one of these concepts, is the above and below the line, is to assess, where am I at? Where do I want to go? And is the mindset that I have right now serving me? Because a lot of times we don't even realize that it can be different. And having that growth mindset, like, okay, I can change, I can do something in a different way to get different results, whether that's better or worse, honestly.
Yeah, so a while back, I have a personal coach that when I started working with her, she asked me a question. She said, okay, Jared, do you want me to coach you your way or my way? And I'm like, that's a silly question. Like, why are you asking me that? And she said, and I said, and I was just kind of being a brat, but I was fully invested in being coached her way. But I said, well, I don't know. I'm not sure yet if I want to be coached my way or your way. Tell me the difference. And she said, well, if I coach you your way, you'll continue to get the same results. If you allow me to coach you my way, I guarantee you different results. And I said, oh, guarantee, what are those results going to be? And she said, I can't guarantee what the results are going to be, only that they're going to be different. And so I think that one of the keys to that, to the line that Kat was talking about, was open versus closed. In that moment, I just wanted different. I wanted to be open to other possibilities and other ideas and other mindsets and other skill sets and all these things. So think of yourself, am I open right now or closed? Whether it's in business or your personal health or a relationship or anything, am I open to the possibilities or am I closed? And be okay with, I'm in front of the Fendi store, whatever it is, whether it's above or below that line, whether you're open or closed, and that's where the awareness starts.
Well, and another thing that we like to point out is it's not like people say, okay, I want to change the situation. Well, I'm just going to think more positively. Well, that doesn't change where you're at, right? What we try to say is instead of thinking, I want to be more positive, why don't you think, I want to be more accurate? Like, I'm going to accurately assess where I am and where I want to go, because then you can move somewhere. It's like a GPS. If you are at home and you want to get to a restaurant across town you've never been to, then if you put in your phone, if you said, I'm just going to pretend like I am at the mall instead of at my home, because that'll be closer to the store. Well, that does not help you to navigate to the restaurant you're trying to get to. You need to accurately say where you are at and then accurately punch in where you want to go. So great job, Kat. So awesome. Okay, let's go on to our next concept here. I'm going to have Haley and Bonnie come on and share a little bit with us about the drama triangle. Are you there, Haley?
Yeah, I'm here. Did you see Bonnie?
I'm here.
Okay. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Oh, you go ahead.
You're
Sorry.
first, girl.
Oh, okay. So drama triangle. Who in here loves drama? Raise your hand. I think we all kind of subscribe to drama, whether we know it or not. I mean, it's everywhere. It's on TV, it's in our conversations with our friends, it's with our children, our spouses, even with ourselves in our own mind. We are constantly going into this drama triangle. There's 3 points to the drama triangle, and I'm going to go over.
Oh, I think she's on mute.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Bonnie.
Okay, so did you hear what I just said?
Not into the victim.
Oh, okay. So victim, the first point of the triangle is when we fall into victim mode, things are happening to us at the effect of. So life is hard. I have to do this. I have to go through this. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't have a choice. This isn't fair. When we fall into victim mode, those are kind of the thoughts and the verbiage that we can say to ourselves. The next one, villain. Haley, do you want to take villain?
Yeah, so I love this one because I think it's super easy to see it in other people. So I want everyone to put in the chat who their favorite villain is. So think about a villain. This could be like in a movie. Who's your favorite villain? Ursula, the Joker, Gru, Boogeyman, yeah, mother-in-law. Just kidding. That wasn't on there. I love my mother-in-law. She's not a villain. But the classic villain, so really the classic villain isn't, they're not doing all these horrible things for the sheer joy of it generally. They, in their mind, they're battling for a cause or an ideology, or like, the greater good. And so I think in our own lives, as we look at villain, and honestly, in every Disney movie, there's a victim, there's the drama triangle, right? There's the hero, there's the victim, and there's a villain. There would be no drama and no story if there weren't those things. So if you think about that, if you take out, so like Beauty and the Beast, right? The Beast, he's a beast for a reason. He has a past and a history, and he's doing it for this ideology and this kind of what he's battling inside him. But without the beast in that story, there's really no story. There's no problem to be solved. There's no issue there. There's nothing to be fixed. So when you take out the drama and you take out the triangle, then sometimes you look at it in such a, okay, there's nothing there. So I don't know if anybody watched The Bachelor this season, and I'll admit I did. I fell victim to the drama this season. And Barb, that's all I really have to say if you watched it. She was definitely made out as the villain. So it created that drama like exponentially, right? Which is the whole point of the show. Without that, it would be nothing. So we think of the victim or the villain as this like mean, person that's like the one that's dominating and the one that's cruel and a bully and all these things. But honestly, there's a famous villain in all of our lives, and it's us. It's me, it's you. It's subtle. Sometimes being a villain isn't something that we're not trying to be mean, we're not trying to be cruel, we're not out to get the world, but we do have some of those characteristics where it's subtle and we blame and we're dissatisfied. So I was thinking about a couple things with what I've seen as a villain in my own life, and I hope you relate to this. I'll give a couple instances. One is with being a parent. Have you ever heard yourself say when your husband comes home, and he comes home like, "Hey kids, how's it going?" And they run and they hug dad, and all day maybe you've been like telling them to do their jobs and fighting and trying to break that up, and you're the one disciplining, and then dad comes home and everything's happy and they run and they love him, and you're like, you're the Disneyland dad. You come home and you do all the nice things, and I'm the one that always disciplines. And I'm being a little extreme. Sometimes when we do the victim, villain, hero, especially in the scenarios, we want to be a little extreme. Okay, this is how we conjure up this drama so we can really relate better to it and kind of laugh about it, take it less serious. This is the best way to see it in our own lives. And just the parent, like, it's your fault, the kids like you better than me, taking that kind of villain mentality where you're blaming and you're dissatisfied. Another one that I think we all could relate to is with our health goals. Have you ever been to a party or gone to a restaurant that somebody else chose, or gone to like a family dinner, and you're like, I was on track until my sister-in-law brought my favorite dessert. And she knows that I'm on plan. She knows that I'm not eating that stuff. And my mother-in-law knows too, and she didn't even make anything I could eat. That kind of thing where you place blame. And generally, we're doing that because we're not accepting the responsibility. So that villain mentality is typically where you're blaming. And there's also things like, well, it's your fault. Why did she do that? Why would she? She knew, those kind of things. So maybe just think about some of those thoughts that you have in those situations.
Okay, hero. So going back to what Haley said, honestly, I have never watched The Bachelor or Friends or Seinfeld. Somebody posted that on Facebook. So can we still be friends? I just feel like, and not that I haven't ever seen them. I've seen bits and pieces, but I don't ever subscribe to that. But Some people do, some people love it. We can all fall into, I fall more into the hero, I feel like. And not that I don't fall into victim or villain, but I tend to find myself leaning towards the fixer, the rescuer. I have the verbiage of, I can handle everything. I'll figure everything out. I'll be there for everyone. I can do this. I'm the hero. I can fix everything. And I feel like it's not a bad thing to be in this drama triangle. It's just being aware, knowing when you're in it, and catching yourself before it just becomes a train wreck. And so I'm practicing this, and it's just good to be aware of each one. And know what the verbiage sounds like, so you can catch yourself and say, oh, I'm totally playing the victim, or I'm totally being the villain here. And so yeah, the three parts of the drama triangle, we're going to kind of do a little bit of a little exercise with it.
Hey, Bonnie.
So yeah,
before we go on, I think it would be fun if we took a little poll and we asked people, here, I'm going to launch it right now, which area of the drama triangle, oh, it says dram triangle. So there you go. If you were like, oh my gosh, they can't even write this correctly, right? Which area of the drama triangle do you most find yourself? In the victim, in the villain, or in the hero? Those are your three choices. And I thought it'd be fun to just kind of like poll everybody on the line. I'll give you like 10 more seconds. So just click it on your phone or on your computer to vote. Okay, last few votes coming in. Okay, so we have on the line, people, 28% of people tend to find themselves in victim more often, 9% in villain. This is interesting. 62% of those of you on the line today find yourself more in the hero role, where you're seeking that temporary relief and you're just trying to fix it.
In the chat thread, Hillary said, I am all three. I would challenge everybody here to think about this more often, because if 63%, and this is how I used to be, if we think that we are one thing more often than the others, we're probably fairly unaware. Because when I really started to think about it, I am all three simultaneously a lot of times. We might enter one place, but we end up playing all three bases in order to keep the drama alive.
So true. So true. Okay, ladies, keep going. You're doing awesome.
So this, the drama triangle is located in the to me territory. So to me is basically a way of leading where you are in a role where you're at the effect of. Drama occurs because we want to be right. And that tends to be because we want to displace responsibility. And the drama triangle is always self-serving, right? Like we're wanting to appease something in us and blame someone else so that we don't accept that responsibility. I think it's really important, though, as we talk about all this stuff, like Jared said, that we are in all three. We can even be in all three in one situation. We can go from role to role in one conversation with somebody. I think sometimes we do tend to be in one role more than another in certain relationships, but in situations or conversations that we have, we can definitely go from place to place. Now, just like with above and below the line, being above or below isn't a good or bad thing. It just is. And I think that what we're doing is the most important work that we're doing here that's so critical is that we're discovering our location, that we're finding the awareness of where we are in situations that we feel stuck or we feel frustrated in, creating an awareness of that and then moving forward, which is what we're going to be talking about. So this whole part right now is just locating, being aware, understanding what these things are, and then gratefully this awesome webinar is going to help us learn how to get get out of those situations and work on. And we're always going to be in them. Like it's not something that you grow into leadership and you get better and better, but you get better and better at coming out of it faster, recognizing where you are and switching. But an amazing leader is still going to be in the to me and the drama triangle. Like, you know, this isn't a matter of development through not being in this stage ever again. This is just the awareness and getting out of it faster. So I love this quote by Einstein. He says, "No problem can be solved at the same level of consciousness that created it." So the awareness that we're contributing to the conflict shifts us to another level. So again, the consciousness, the awareness is what we're doing so that we can change, because otherwise we can never change that problem.
Awesome. Okay, going on to our next slide. We're going to kind of give you an example of what the drama triangle sounds like. So yesterday, I'm a flight attendant. I flew a lot of flights yesterday, and I heard a lot of verbiage and a lot of drama triangle conversations, and I had some myself. So I'm going to kind of give you guys a little play-by-play of how the drama triangle can sound. And just, I'm throwing out a disclaimer. I'm not bashing on anything. I'm not making fun of anything. This is literally what I've been thinking, and I've heard other people saying. And so just to kind of give you a little example, but I'm throwing out a disclaimer, like it's not my opinion, it's just what I've heard and what I've heard myself say. So, okay, so victim. My flight is delayed. This virus is causing so many problems. Everything's canceled. I am just gonna get sick and I'll have to just be in bed. And my pageant got canceled. This is just so hard. Life is just so hard right now. Everything's falling apart. Villain. The president, when he was doing his speech, he wasn't very comforting. I can't believe they canceled that event and didn't even ask me what dates I was available to reschedule. Everybody is just buying all the toilet paper, and it's because of them that this whole thing is madness. Everything is out of control, and it's because that the people don't wash their hands. So everything is just falling apart. Hero. I guess I'll just have to buy a mask and I can handle this. I'm going to be there for everyone. I can just stand up here and be the flight attendant of this flight and act really happy, and I'll just take care of all the passengers, and I'm probably just going to get sick, but I'll just make sure everything is okay. I'll have to go and make sure my neighborhood is okay. I'll drop off a roll of toilet paper to every house, and I can handle this. Victim. I cannot believe that my gym was almost canceled today. I am just having a hard time with this. Everything is going wrong. Villain. When I get sick, I'm going to it's going to be because of this person, and it's going to cause everything to go wrong, and everybody is just going to hero. I can handle this. I can do this. Okay, they're going to reschedule it. All right, this is going to be awesome. I'll just have to make sure that I wash my hands. So trying to give you a little idea of going into each role, victim, villain, hero. Did any of this come up for you guys the past couple days? Raise your hand if you kind of had some of these same thoughts or heard some of these same conversations going on. So like I said, it's not a bad thing to fall into this. We all do it. It's just being aware of when we fall into the drama triangle.
Awesome job, Bonnie and Haley. You know, I think it's so often that that we get into these roles, right? Where we are in the villain, victim, hero, and everything just seems so serious and just like going overboard. And you know, it's like escalation is a word that I think it happens a lot in the drama triangle, and everything just like is falling apart. right? And I think that the first step, like to go back to what Kat was talking about with above and below the line, this drama triangle lives in that below the line space. And the first step is honestly to just locate yourself and be like, all right, it is Saturday at 10:35 a.m. Mountain Time, and I am below the line and I am in drama, you know? And it kind of just like lightens the mood just a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you even look at, Haley brought up like Disney movies. My kids love all the Marvel movies and DC movies and stuff like that. And there is a distinct hero, villain, victim, right? But like I grew up on Superman, right? All the old Christopher Reeves movies and stuff. And what did he was the hero, right? But then you can place moments in each of those movies where he became the victim, right? Oh, it's so hard and I have to save the whole world. And I've got this villain that's attacking me every single day and attacking all of my victims.
So hard.
It's so hard. And so what did he do? He would go back to his farm where mom and dad would become his heroes, right? It's this perpetual cycle where we get into it with ourselves. We can have we can be all three inside of our own heads. But then once we start pulling other people in, it's so easy to have all of these overlapping drama triangles, because Amber and I have been married for 21 years. And when we get into the drama triangle and we put our drama triangles on top of each other, it creates so many more dynamics. Like the dynamics are crazy sometimes. So it's so important for us to be aware of where we are personally so that we can, like Amber said, hold it more lightly. And it's not that you're wrong for being there. That's what, going back to what Kat started with, that's how our brain works to survive. It categorizes and does all these things and puts us in this space. But if we want to below the line, there's wisdom there, but we can't change. We end up just perpetuating the cycle. So if we want to create something new, we have to move above the line to be open, to move into this creation phase rather than reaction phase, so that we can see what the next steps are to creating what we want.
Well, and I think if you find yourself playing these spaces in the drama triangle and you are like, oh, just doesn't feel that great, and I'm like not wanting to be here, but you don't know how to shift, then playing the bass, you need to do it bigger. You need to like really drama it up. Be like, there is going to be no toilet paper ever. We all are going to have to get squirt bottles, or, you know, whatever. Just like really play it up.
Like Krista said in the chat, it makes me laugh when I purposefully play these roles. When we're doing it just by accident or just by our nature,
Just a little bit.
You're not really getting into the role. Like, go all in.
Bigger.
If you're going to be hero, like, play it up. Be Superman, be Wonder Woman, whatever it looks like. And
Not only am I going to give everyone a roller teepee, I'm going to also hand out squares on the street in Walmart, you know, play it up.
And if you're going to do it, go get yourself a cape and wear the cape while you're doing it, so everybody knows that you're the hero.
That's right. Oh. Hey, Jared, tell us a little bit more about this scarcity concept.
Okay, so where we're going and where we've just come from, the drama triangle, it's based on these three core human wants. And those are security, approval, and control. So our basic human needs are, and what our brain is wired to do, is keep us alive, survival. So Kat talked about saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that 10,000 years ago. The threat was real, and it was mostly a physical survival threat. So there was extreme conditions, cold or heat, hunger, There was a scarcity of food, all these kinds of things. So when we're living in this subsistence level, we can't focus on anything else. We don't focus well on relationships. We don't focus well on spirituality or physical health or anything like that. It's just, how do I survive? And that's where security comes in. And that is the first primal human need. So once that is fulfilled, we go on to the second one. We're like, hey, how can I gain approval? Right? So think back 10,000 years ago. Okay, I have enough to eat. I'm warm or cool enough, depending on the environment. And I need the approval of my clan or my tribe. Because if they don't like me and food is scarce, or they're moving on to a different location or something, maybe they knock me off. Maybe they isolate me or banish me from their society or whatever. And where we see this, there's in the world of psychology and stuff, there is a huge concern around the addiction of approval, right? People on social media, have you ever found yourself feeling like this? You post a funny picture or a serious picture or a serious comment or a situation in your life.
Any post.
Any post. And you're like, at the end of the day, you're like, oh my gosh, nobody liked it or commented on it. How dare them? Well, the truth of the matter is most of your friends probably didn't even see it. It doesn't show up on all of your friends' feeds or anything like that. But we put things out there to gain approval, whether it's a thumb up or anything like that.
Well, the opposite is true too. When you get lots of comments and lots of likes, you're like feeling it. You're like, yeah, people approve of me. Yeah, people like me. I'm feeling so good.
Yeah, people are like me.
Yeah.
Not just that they like me, but they are like me.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me okay in the world.
They agree.
They agree with me. The rules of our planets are all the same, right? So, but when we feel a lack of control, so if we feel a lack of security, or even once we've gained that security, we move on to this approval. And then if we don't get the approval that we're looking for, we seek control. So have you ever given your kids a chore list, like, hey, you need to dust or you need to vacuum or whatever like that, and then they don't do it, so they don't approve of you, they don't give you approval, and then what do? Oh, you're grounded. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch you vacuum your room. So then you move into this control space. So all of these three core human needs or wants, they drive everything we do, and they drive most of the drama in our lives. So be aware when
Steph says, you have a secret camera in my house.
No, Steph, we don't. We're just like you, though. We deal with all the same things. We're human beings on planet Earth. So oftentimes this is so important to understand, is we are way more alike than we are different. And so that's why, I'll just bring this up. That's why our community is so important. It's so that we recognize how alike we are, and that we're all going through some of the same challenges, and that we start to recognize these things and how they play and how they control our lives, whether we're seeking. And so anytime you feel that drama and you're starting to recognize where you are on the line, ask yourself a simple question. What do I feel a lack of? Is it security, approval, or control? And then ask yourself another simple question: could the opposite also be true? Do I need this control? Do I need the approval? Or above the line, Jim Detmer, a lot of this material comes from this book, 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. The conscious leadership group is just phenomenal individuals that practice conscious leadership. But from above the line, the commitment above the line is I am the source of my approval, security, and control. The below the line commitment is others, the universe, the world, other people, my spouse, they're the source. So when I need approval, it's up to her to give me approval.
You're doing a great job right now.
And so you start to see those things. And when I feel that, I'm like, oh man, I don't feel like I'm being validated by Amber and stuff. I'm like, wait, is she the source of my validation, of my approval? Or am I the source of that?
Well, and it's amazing, like, how much less you need that from others when you feel it yourself. And yeah, it is all very interesting.
And it's not an arrogance.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm so cool, I don't need anything from other people. It's that you become more in line, aligned with how the world actually works, that people are actually like us, that they're enjoying the same things, that they're struggling with the same things. But this is a massive, massive part of living a life of fulfillment and being able to find happiness, even when there's a pandemic on the planet.
Very true. Very true. Okay, let's bring on our next speakers. So Jenny Langston and Steph Whiting, let's have you go on to this next topic that we're going to be talking about. Take it away.
Okay, so the rules of your planet. Let's think about this for a minute. What are the rules on your planet? So we think that the world should show up in a certain way, right? When we wake up in the morning, we have an idea of how things should go, and we are attached to that a lot of times. And it's not that it's wrong or right, it's how you believe the world should be. So we're going to explore this a little bit. This is something really fun to think about. So on Planet Jenny, I was given my given name is Jennifer, but on Planet Jenny, everyone should call me Jenny. They should just know that my name is Jenny and I don't go by Jennifer. On Planet Jenny, when you see a garbage that is full in the house, you empty it immediately. On Planet Jenny, I shouldn't have to hear any chewing noises when someone is eating near me. Even though that's pretty much impossible, right? But on my planet, and when I go to the store, there on Planet Jenny, when I go to the store, there should always be toilet paper available to purchase. So in the chat, I would love it if you would type in some things that on your planet that are important to you. Type those in. And Steph was going to share some of her planet stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, you stole my first one, which was on Planet Steph. When the garbage is full, you just recognize that it's your job to take it out. And on Planet Steph, you also know if you take it out, you have to put a new liner inside the garbage can. It's twofold, right? I love these things. On Planet Steph, if you cook, you don't do the dishes. Never the two shall meet. What are some other ones we're getting in the chat, Jenny?
Yeah, it says, oh well, they're coming in so fast. Piano students should always practice well and daily. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. On Planet Marcy, the toilet paper always has to be over the top and never replaced when, or let's say, and never replaced when empty, and replaced when empty. Yeah, these are awesome. These are so good. You know, it's interesting because we all have these ideas of how the world should be. But what we're really going to explore with this next topic is, are those thoughts and those ideas serving us? Is it truly a fact? Can we be open and curious to maybe the opposite being true and exploring that? So a lot of the challenges that we have in our lives really stem from believing that something is right the way that we see it, and we want it to be right. And a lot of our challenges stem from that. So we're going to explore how maybe we can be open and curious and change maybe some of those thoughts that we think are for sure the way it should be. So Steph is going to talk about that a little bit right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. That was so fun. I love this whole fact versus feeling because this was so new to me. You know, I'm not a spring chicken, but I really, this whole concept of a fact and a feeling being so different was such a new thing for me that it kind of blew my mind. And I love it because facts are something that can't be disputed. And a feeling, obviously, is something that we have in our heart. So I'm going to kind of give you guys some ways to figure out what causes a fact and what is a feeling. So first of all, I would like to talk to you about maybe a recurring issue that you want to shift. This is a really good thing to think about when we're doing fact versus feeling. What's something in your life that you want to shift? The first thing you could do is you could write down all the facts surrounding that issue. Now, a fact, if you don't know what it is, a fact is something that is unarguable. If a video camera recorded it, this is what they would pick up. That is a fact. It's black and white, it's reality. And I love this definition of fact also, is that it has no, a fact has never caused upset, right? Like a fact is a fact, okay? So write down all the facts related to the issue that you're thinking about. And then you can also create stories about a fact. Now, this is what a lot of us do, and we don't even recognize that we've done it yet because we have these feelings, right? So I love this. Facts have never caused upset before. So what usually happens is a fact changes into a story or becomes a story, which becomes a feeling. Now, I'm going to give you guys an example about this that just kind of happened organically between my brother and I. My brother is like one of my favorite people in the world, and we love to get together and complain to each other about like our genes. Who's ever complained about like, my family has big genes, or you've heard from your parents, you come from big stock. Like who's ever heard this before? Okay. So we had this belief that we had like the fat genes, right? And we had all these facts to back it up. But basically we usually talked in stories and feelings. And so one of the things we talked about is how much harder. So like in our mind, it was so much harder for us to lose weight than for other people. Who's ever told themselves this story? It's harder for me to lose weight than other people. Okay, it's good to kind of see where we're all at. Now, it was really hard for me to come up with a fact here. I like really had to think about it. So I thought that this could be a fact. When I was in 5th grade, I was a higher BMI than 90% of my classmates. That could be a fact. I would guess that was probably a fact. Now, I don't remember exactly how much I weighed and how tall I was, but I'm guessing if I could have done a survey, I could have made that into a fact. Now, so my brother and I used to do this whole thing. Amber, if you could go back to the other slide again now with the fact, story, feeling. So the fact was, it was harder for us to lose weight than other people, which changed to this story. No, the next one. Yes, perfect. Which changed to a story which was kind of like a pity party situation, which changed to a feeling of like, poor me, like we have it harder than everybody else. And so my brother actually said to me the other day, you know what I realized? I realized something really cool. So you and I, because we might have an easier time gaining weight than other people, I also recognize that we might have an easier time gaining muscle than other people. Because he's noticed that a lot of people say to him, wow, how do you get such big muscles? And he's like, I'm doing the same thing and eating the same thing as a lot of other people. But I tend to put on muscle really easy. And I think it's because we can put on weight really easy. Okay, so this is kind of interesting, right? And then he said, I think it's so cool that we have this gift of being able to put on muscle really easy. Like, so now whenever I think about our genetics, instead of thinking about the fact that we put on weight really easy, I've changed the story in my mind to how lucky we are that we can put on muscle so easy. So he kind of went back and he took this fact of us being able to gain weight or be a bigger BMI than other people, and he's changed the story behind it, which has changed his feeling about it. And now instead of feeling poor me, he's feeling lucky. Do you guys see how we can do that in our lives? And so, Amber, if you could move on to the next slide, slide 14. Here's some stories we tell. So there's always a story that comes from the facts, right? And I love this. So I'm an emotional eater. I know what I do, but I know what I should do, but I don't do it. I'm so dang busy. So these might feel like facts, right? A fact is I'm fat. A fact is I'm busy. A fact is I'm not good enough. A fact is I need to wait until things aren't so stressful before I start losing weight. A fact is if I go to a birthday party and I'm on a 5 and 1, I'll miss out on all the fun. What we're doing here is we're trying to present that you may be telling yourself a story instead of actually telling yourself a fact. And it's okay because we all do it, right? We all tell ourselves stories around facts, but it's so freeing to recognize that if you can speak in facts to yourself, you can actually go back and change the stories, which can change your feelings. And Jenny's going to talk to us a little bit about a recipe here. We came up with a perfect recipe for you guys. Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, yes. So this recipe is truly the relationship death spiral. And it's a recipe we can all relate to because we think in our mind, everyone should read my mind. I shouldn't have to explain myself. And so then we tell ourselves this story and we sulk about it, and you know, we are angry that not everybody knows, and we don't communicate that, but we shouldn't have to. And so we project this feeling on everyone else, and we start to really feel the victim. And we basically have an expectation without communication. So we've missed like the biggest piece of what really builds a healthy relationship. And this starts this drama story war. And Steph is going to give an example of something in her life recently with her kids that really explains this really well.
Thanks, Jenny. So unfortunately, I had just returned from a training where we were taught this. So when I say unfortunately, sometimes having clarity about something kind of hurts, right? So I had just been trained on this whole story wars. And what happened is I had this story that was unfolding in front of me. And what happened is it was Sunday dinner. And since the history of time, I have made Sunday dinner, and I have 2 teenagers that are just a year apart, and they alternate every other week doing the dishes after Sunday dinner. One usually clears and one does the dishes, but every week since the beginning of time, that has been their job. And when I was out of town and I got home, one of them said, do you know what I love? I love how the whole time you were gone, no one was telling us what to do. And so we just did everything. It was so great. Like, no one told us to do the dishes and no one told us to take out the garbage, and we just did it. And I was like, that's fantastic. So here's Sunday dinner, and I have this experiment in my mind. Okay, if you can go back to that slide that shows the 4 steps. So I told myself a story that if I didn't say anything about the Sunday dishes, that one of them would just stand up and they would just do it, but it would be like this really great experience because they wouldn't be being told what to do, okay? So this was the story going on in my mind. Now, I withheld the fact that I knew what I wanted to see happen. I didn't tell them, right? I just wanted to see it happen. So I wasn't saying anything. So of course I make dinner and I kind of just watch. And they both, start watching a movie, and one walks upstairs and one gets on the phone, and I'm kind of like, oh, what's happening right now? And I start getting really upset. And I actually get so upset that I leave the scene and I go up in my closet and I start like reorganizing my closet, and I'm literally withdrawing. And it was just clockwork. I'm sitting in my closet and I'm steaming, and I'm literally texting one of my friends. I'm so annoyed. I make Sunday dinner every single week, and these kids just think that they get to eat and run, and it's so annoying. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, and all of a sudden I had this moment of clarity. Oh my goodness, I'm doing the relationship death spiral, like clockwork. I had a story. I withheld what I wanted to see happen. I withdrew myself, and now I'm projecting all this anger and all this, these bad feelings onto my kids. And I literally think I was upstairs texting both of them. I think I did a group text from my closet. You two are the worst. And they're texting me back like, what's happening here? Anyway, and that was when I recognized that I had just completed the perfect recipe for the relationship death spiral. So Jenny's going to tell us how to get out of this on the next slide.
Awesome. Okay, it's so true. When we think about this, we have all experienced this recipe, right? And so we just really want to wrap this up with giving you some tools to be able to end this war. And the first thing is awareness, right? And that's exactly what Steph did. Is she all of a sudden was like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm doing. She recognized it and she took responsibility. So basically it's really taking responsibility and recognizing that your story is just a story. It's not facts. And what we can do is really surrender our thoughts and have an open mind, and allow ourselves to be really open and explore what else is could be part of this situation and change it. Because really it's just perspective, isn't it? It's just a thought, and we are not our thoughts. And so there's some questions that you can ask yourself when it comes to a stressful thought or something that you are holding tightly that you believe should be the way that it is. The first question you can ask is it true? Second question, can you absolutely know that it's true? Third question, how do you react and what happens when you believe that thought? And what would you be without that thought? I love that, because really it is just a thought. And there's a lady, Byron Katie, who was stuck in a 10-year depression. And I love what she says when she recognized her thoughts. She says, I discovered that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered, but that when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And that is true for every human being. Freedom is as simple as that. I found that suffering is optional. And I thought that was so powerful because really it's all about reframing. And when we can be open and curious to reframing our thoughts, how powerful that can be in seeing that the opposite could be true. And I think that's such a powerful tool that has helped me a lot as I've learned and studied this. Any other thoughts on that, Steph?
No, but I loved that you shared that quote with me today because I recognize how often our thoughts make us miserable or make us happy. And I think one of the most powerful things I learned in this whole experience of losing weight and starting to work on the habits of health is just to not believe everything I think. Right? I mean, that really just don't believe everything you think. So that can change everything. Thanks, Jenny.
Wow. Okay, that was good.
Yeah, that reminded me what Jenny and Steph just mentioned, not believing your thoughts. Eckhart Tolle said that, made a statement that liberation is listening to that voice in our head and knowing that that's not who I am. Right? So, I mean, I made a post on Facebook the other day that a whole bunch of stuff going on back and forth, and I was talking about this, that man, if I was convicted for everything that I thought, like I would either be convicted of something or institutionalized in some way, right? If people saw what happened inside of our minds. And I think that's true of everybody. But thank goodness we are not actually who that is. All the thoughts, crazy thoughts that go through our minds. Here's an interesting study that was done. It was actually part of a language study that people who speak English, this study was done in the United States, on average speak 150 to 200 words per minute. Okay? 150 to 200 words per minute. But when they hooked up their brains to like EEGs or whatever they call them, that our internal dialogue is approximately 1,300 words per minute on average.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of junk going on inside of our brains, right? Thank goodness that our brain filters out most of that. And when we're having a conversation, I mean, have you ever found yourself, I find myself all the time, someone saying something, and meanwhile, you just had a week's worth of conversation inside your own mind about something they just said. And then you come back to reality and say, yeah, none of that is pertinent. I'm not going to share any of that. And some of us know people who share everything they just thought, right? Thank goodness for filters for most people. But so we're not going to just leave you hanging, because we've been talking a lot about the drama triangle, right? This is where we live. And again, it's not good or bad. It just is. So where we have discomfort is when we find ourselves in the drama triangle and we prefer to be somewhere else. We prefer to be above the line.
Maybe you're getting that icky feeling.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't like being here. I really want to feel a different way. I want life to show up a different way. One of our mentors, Dave Blanchard, he actually wrote a book called The Observer's Chair. And it's the same kind of idea. And he said, so the observer's chair is what we call the empowerment triangle. The other chair is the drama triangle. So he talks about these two chairs. And he said the point, we cannot always live in the observer's chair. It's impossible. Our brains are just wired to do different things. It's impossible for us to always be in the empowerment triangle. The point is to get there as often as we can and stay there for as long as we can.
if you're wanting to move forward in your life.
If you're wanting to move forward. If you're totally happy with just recycling the same thoughts and feelings and actions and lifestyle and everything like that,
then none of this matters.
none of it matters.
Like hop off the webinar right now.
It only matters if you want to create something different, better, whatever adjectives that you want to use. Okay, so the first, go back to that real quick. The first shift, the very first shift from drama to empowerment is to the creator. And becoming a creator is all about asking questions. Tony Robbins always uses this, he always teaches this idea, this principle, that the quality of our lives are determined by the quality of our emotions. Okay, but where do the quality of our emotions come from? A lot of people say, oh, well, emotions come from thoughts, but it's not always current thoughts. Sometimes it's thoughts that we have been conditioned and developed to have. It's the stories that we've told ourselves possibly for decades. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. In Optavia, we are focused on the creation of optimal health and well-being. When I came to Optavia, I heard people talking about emotional eating and stuff like that, and I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong with these people? Emotional eaters? And over time, I'm like, wait, I'm an emotional eater too. Guess what? We all are. If you think you're not an emotional eater, you're just not aware, or you're lying to yourself. And let me tell you why. So when I was 4 years old, I started playing soccer. I still remember my very first goal that I scored. I scored it off a corner kick, and it was a header. So that's a pretty cool thing to have as your very first goal ever. My parents, they were probably more excited about it than I was. I was just out there playing a game. But they were so excited, and on the way home, they're like, hey, Jared, we're so excited for you. Let's go and get ice cream on the way home as a reward for having fun, scoring a goal, whatever. Within a couple of days, I had an older brother that wasn't very nice to me growing up, and he liked to beat me up a lot. Within a couple of days, he's beating me up, and my mom says to me, oh, Jared, you look sad. Let's go in the kitchen and dish up a bowl of ice cream. So very early on in my life, I learned that happiness or success or reward or whatever from that soccer game resulted in ice cream. So did getting beat up and being sad at home, right? So as we have experiences like this over and over and over and over in our lives, we don't even need the goal scored. We don't even need to be beat up. We need to feel, oh, I'm happy, or I'm excited, or I'm sad, and both of those now equate ice cream without even thinking about it.
That's how our brains are set up.
That's how they're set up to survive.
They need to have like habits so that we can, you know, not have to think of everything. So it is interesting though to think, if you are a parent, like what habit loops am I setting up in my children's brains? But before you freak out, we're probably all going to mess our kids up in some way.
Okay.
It's just part of it.
So Luann in the chat thread. Luann, I'm going to use this as an example as we go forward here. I love this, but also beware of this, okay? So food is always the reward. I bought myself a new purse when I hit my goal weight. Awesome. You changed something in your head and said, I want a different result. So rather than using food, but what I'm going to talk about for the next several minutes is how to recognize that and our need for the reward. Okay, so we're actually going to talk about this idea of practicing emotional intelligence. A lot of people use this phrase in the world. Even our first and second graders in our school system here in Utah are learning about growth versus fixed mindset and developing emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? It's being intelligent about our emotions, okay? So what's this other symbol on the screen? It's the loading symbol or buffering, right? So we're either buffering or we're practicing emotional intelligence when it comes to our lives. So this is my favorite quote in the world. And when we started this webinar today, Amber talked about a lot of people are on lockdown, right? People are hunkering down, and I look at this as space, an opportunity to create space between stimulus and response. So for those of you who don't know who Viktor Frankl was, he was a psychiatrist, world-renowned psychiatrist, and he actually was a survivor of 3 concentration camps. This quote comes from his book, Man's Search for Meaning, following his incarceration in those camps. So most people you would think would come out of internment camps and concentration camps with hatred and fully entrenched in the drama triangle, right? But this was his statement. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So we live in a world today where it's just stimulus, 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 stimulus. There's no space. In a study that was done 30 years ago, they brought people in not knowing what kind of research they were going to be part of. They were just, hey, come to this facility and volunteer to be part of research groups. And the actual research was to just put them in a holding room and see how long it would take them to resolve their boredom. It was a large room, there was a sitting area, but then there was some books and magazines and things like that. They didn't take their keys or anything. If they brought something with them, they didn't take anything away.
Which boredom is on the emotion scale.
Right. So boredom is
Not
just
a
an
fact.
emotion, right? So 30 plus years ago when they did this, it took on average 40 minutes for people to get up. They just sat there quietly and just waited. So they reenacted this same study about 3.5 or 4 years ago now. And again, they didn't take anything from them. And the average amount of time that it took someone to resolve their boredom was 15 seconds.
That actually seems pretty long to me.
Yeah, seems pretty long, right?
When I see people like sit down somewhere at a doctor's office, they just whip this thing right out.
And only one person in the research study didn't take their phone out. All but one person pulled their phone out. That person went up and walked over and picked up some magazines. They probably forgot their phone in their car or something, right? But all of us, how many of you have ever had the experience where you swiped your phone open and by the time you swiped it open, you already forgot what you were going to your phone for?
That actually happens to me all the time.
Right? It's because we're so engaged in just reaction to stimulus and we never slow down and create space in our lives to create what we actually want. So moving on, we're going from this place. So these are you avoiding embracing emotion? Okay, so these are some compulsive behaviors that people engage in. And when I was first shown some of these lists, and this is just a portion of a list that we use frequently, maybe a quarter to a third of a list that we use frequently, but naturally, our brain will start to categorize these and rank them. That's what I did anyway. And I'm like, oh, that one's bad. That one's way worse than this one. Let's take alcohol versus eating. Some people will be like, well, eating's not as bad as alcohol. Or how many of you have ever said, you know what, I just got to escape the world. I'm going to go take a nap. Is it bad? No, it's not bad. But are you avoiding something? So we live in a world today where we don't understand the difference between fear or boredom or loneliness or anger or the dozens and hundreds of other emotions that humans experience, we don't understand the difference between those and hunger. We immediately go from, I'm stressed right now, oh, I'm hungry. I'm stressed right now, oh, I need to take a nap. When we slow down, and a lot of people talk about being. The art of presence, the art of being a human being, is the opposite of a human doing. Sometimes we need to stop doing and just be. When we can get to a place where rather than when I feel stressed or tired or overwhelmed or anxious or any of these things, angry, upset, excited, any emotion, whether we describe that as a positive or a negative emotion, if we can just be that, it's okay to be bored. It's okay to be sad or depressed. We don't have to do anything about it.
Well, the funny thing is we don't only buffer our own emotions, we tend to buffer others' emotions.
Oh.
Where, you know, like if somebody is going through loss in their life, I feel like I've had a lot of friends on Facebook and real life friends, of course, who have lost loved ones lately. And we're very fast to try to buffer their emotion for them. Oh, I wish I could take the pain from you. I wish that you could just not feel this right now. Like, we not only buffer our own, but we want to buffer other people's or kids. Oh, don't be sad, eat this ice cream. Right?
So about 5 years ago, I was on a Zoom coaching call with one of my great mentors, Dave Blanchard, and Amber had just gone through a horrible tonsillectomy. And Amber does not recover really well, really quickly, and from surgeries or anything like that, from illness. And I actually do. It's kind of, she's always kind of joked that, oh, that's your superpower. You just recover from everything. In fact, I had to have 2 vasectomies because I had a superpower and it regrew. And TMI, right? But that's what, so I was on this call and he was just asking how Amber was doing. And I was emotional. And I said, I wish that I could just take her pain on me and I could just handle this for her. And he said, that's interesting. And he just sat there for several minutes, and it was really awkward to sit in silence on a Zoom meeting with my mentor. And I said, are you going to ask any questions? And he's like, I'm just thinking. He was creating that space. Rather than being reactionary, he wanted to be responsive. He wanted to create something moving forward. His next question pierced me. And he said, I know my question. He said, Jared, do you want to take this pain on her because you want that pain? Or because taking her pain away from her would make your life easier? And my response was something not very nice because he had found me out. He had exposed me. He had exposed me to myself. I didn't even know that. But I really wanted to take that pain away from her because it would have made my life easier, because then my wife could do all the things that she was so good at that I wasn't so good at.
The hero role.
Right? We fall into these things so easily. And we let the emotion take over because there's this elaborate story around it. And we're just dealing those stories. So we want to take you through a 5-step process of being able to manage those emotions. Because again, the quality of our lives are determined by the quality of our emotions. The quality of our emotions are in large part determined by the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves and how we frame our stories. Okay, so the first step is to name your emotion. The more sophisticated we become at naming our emotions and identifying what we're actually feeling, the more fulfilling and those 3 areas of lack we talked about earlier, the more secure we'll feel, the more approval we'll feel, the more control we'll feel. Because we'll recognize that we are the source of those things. So I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, Amber and I were sitting in front of our therapist. And our therapist asked Amber, like, what do you want moving forward? And she's like, I just don't want him to be so angry all the time. And I was like, I'm not angry. And the therapist said, I'm usually not supposed to take sides with married couples, but I've got to go with Amber on this one. Like, you really sound angry. And I said, I'm not angry. And he said, then what are you? And I said, I don't know. And he handed me a model that's used by a lot of therapists called an emotion wheel.
Similar to this.
Similar to this in a different format. But it goes from, okay, anger, sadness, fear, joy, sexual feelings. And then it goes into the subsets of all of those main categories. So when I went through the subset, I actually saw this one word that stood out to me, and the word was hurt. I felt hurt. And he said, why don't you show hurt? Why do you show anger instead of hurt? And immediately I knew the question, I knew the answer. I said, because as I was conditioned through my childhood, hurt was something, was a feminine emotion. It wasn't okay for boys. Boys were supposed to be tough. Rub some dirt on it.
Walk it off.
Walk it off, right? It's what I learned in sports. It's what I learned in every part of life. You're tough. Little girls get hurt. Yep, pull up your skirt, Jared. This is my sister talking, right? My sister from another mister, but she knows me. Like, but anger was a somewhat approved male emotion. So growing up, I learned to show anger, aggression, these kinds of really bold, masculine emotions, rather than showing gentleness and meekness and love and all the emotions that I was actually feeling. Right? So number one is to really be able to get sophisticated about identifying and naming the emotion that you're actually feeling.
The second one is locate it. So where is it in your body that it is manifesting for you? And so, because a lot of times I think people think, oh, okay, I'm feeling this emotion, I'm feeling angry, so I need to stop it because it's not okay, right? What we're saying is get that awareness, pinpoint what it is, and then where is it in your body. Typically, anger is found in your back, your neck, your shoulders, clenched jaw, in your, hip, whatever. And so say where it is, like, oh, I'm clenching my jaw, I'm so angry. I could feel it right here. And even like touch that area where you can feel it. Or maybe you're sad, you're crying. Someone's telling you, stop crying, get over it. I'll give you something to cry about. That's what my dad used to say. I was like, I'm already crying. Or you're feeling it in your throat. You get a frog in your throat or up in your chest. Or fear. Maybe your stomach is upset. Maybe you're feeling some feelings around the coronavirus.
Maybe you fear a lack of control.
Yeah.
A lack of security.
So locate where that is in your body. Touch that area, like focus, and don't try to make it go away. We're not trying to locate it so that we can like pinpoint it to get rid of it. You're actually trying to locate it so you can describe it. You can, and using an ing descriptor is huge.
Yeah. So is my jaw clenching? Is it numbing my mind? Is it numbing, do I feel numb to other feelings?
Is it pounding?
Is it pounding? Is it pressing? Do I feel like I can't breathe?
Say it out loud to someone. This is so powerful. Say it out loud to someone.
Next is to shift it. You notice here, we don't say, ask yourself what caused it. Don't get into your head, get into your body. People, oftentimes and we're going to talk about change and what the formula for change looks like, is most people are wanting the how-to steps of everything. And then they're like, oh, I want you to motivate me. Motive is based on motive. Motivate is based on motive. What am I going to get from this? Inspire is in spirit. Get in your spirit. Get in your body. A simple way to do this is deep, natural breaths. Feeling like you're filling up your diaphragm, which some people are like, oh, I don't want my belly to be any bigger than it is. If you're breathing correctly, your belly is going to get larger as you fill your diaphragm up with air. So deep, natural breaths, inhaling and exhaling, engage both your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. It naturally reduces cortisol and stress hormones. So it's going to help you just feel your way through it. Engage and notice your body. One of the things that someone shared with me years and years ago that I do all the time now, and just because I fell in love with it, is during these deep, deep natural breaths, feel or have the thought of I'm breathing through my fingertips or through my toes. You'll actually, what I've found, and most people, there's a few people that don't recognize this, but most people sense that they're like, oh, I feel tingling in my toes or my fingers. It's just because you're not actually breathing through your fingers and toes. You're just becoming aware of those parts of your body. So it's so incredible and miraculous how when we focus on our entire body and recognize the different parts of our body, how aware we are of things that we weren't previously aware of. Acknowledge it. I'm angry right now. Or I'm calm right now. Or I'm anxious, or whatever that emotion is. Just acknowledge it and let it pass through your body without fighting it.
You don't have to judge it. You don't have to say, I'm a bad person because I'm angry. I shouldn't be sad. This goes back to the very beginning when Kat was talking about below the line is that you think the world should be a certain way. And just accepting it and feeling it to its full capacity.
And there at the bottom, you see, we say micro habit, 1 minute per day. So In Optavia, we talk about creation of habits all the time. And a micro habit is something that you can do within just a minute or two a day. In a very short moment. So small, and it's just basically a cue to do something. And we start with 1 minute, and Jim Defmer says this, because if you can't do 1 minute per day, then it's not about time. Because a lot of people say, oh, I'm just so busy. Anybody can fit 1 minute in.
Things in our life are actually rarely actually about time.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
It's about our thoughts about time.
Yeah, it's about our priorities
Yeah.
and what we've decided. So true. So
then the last step is to listen to it. Kat talked about wisdom, above and below the line. Listen for the wisdom that's there in this emotion. Sadness. What wants to be let go of or mourned? Sadness is part of life. Perfectionism. How many perfectionists or recovering perfectionists do we have on the call? Perfectionism is below the line. Because it's saying that there's only one right. There's not openness. Perfect means whole or complete. Whole or complete, another word for whole or complete is integer. We learn about integers way back in like elementary school. An integer is a whole number, positive or negative. Positive feelings, negative feelings, positive experiences, negative experiences. It's all part of being whole and complete and perfect. We are not made perfect, or we are not perfect beings by just doing the right all the time or being right all the time. It's about experiencing the wholeness and completeness of life.
I think the word I would use is like richness.
Yeah.
Like having the full experience, because if you're blocking anything that could be perceived negative, then you are missing out, because if you don't experience the negative, you can't experience the fullness of the positive.
Yeah, they say that the greatest joy comes at the end of the greatest suffering. Right? So anger, what wants to be stopped, changed, or ended? Fear, what wants to be known? Have you ever noticed that? Fear and faith are really the same thing. You're choosing to believe in something most of the time that you cannot see. They're one and the same. So you get to choose to be faithful about something and hopeful that, hey, just because I can't see it, I don't have to fear it. But the difference between fear and faith is known. Fear is the unknown. It's hidden. It's isolated and abandoned and ashamed. Joy, what wants to be celebrated? Creative, what wants to be created, or what is attractive?
So I want to share a quick story about this, because going back to Luann earlier in the chat, you know, I bought myself a purse when I reached my goal weight, which is great.
Yep.
Listen, I bought myself a purse the other day. Love it. But here's the thing. So are we taking the time to go through all 5 of these steps? Or are we pasting a new buffer on top? So I like to share this example of my little brothers. So growing up, I watched my little brothers during the summer while my parents were at work, right? And my little brothers were not supposed to eat in the TV room, but guess what? They did all the time. They decided eating in the TV room was one of their favorite things. And my little brothers loved ramen. And ramen is like, that's the worst thing you could eat in a room you're not supposed to eat, right? Because it's like this giant bowl, the broth is like up to the top. And anyway, they would make the ramen and take it into the TV room. And they would spill like all the time. You guys, they're just like, oh, you know, all their ramen broth was on the carpet. And so they didn't want to get in trouble. So they would go and they would get an old rag and they would put it on top. so that it would hide the fact that there was ramen and broth on the carpet and noodles. They didn't even clean up the noodles half the time. They spilled those. So then I would come in later, there would just be like this cloth. And I was like, because on Amber's planet, your little brothers should follow the rules, right? When you're babysitting.
And Amber knew that the cloth wasn't just mistakenly dropped there, it was covering something.
Most definitely. So then I would lift up the cloth. Lo and behold, there's, crusty ramen noodles, whatever, grossness. And so the cloth is kind of like a buffer over the ramen, right? And sometimes we go, okay, I realize I'm aware of the fact that I'm putting this cloth on the ramen. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to go to the bathroom and get a fancy towel. And this towel is like really nice and new and pretty. And I'm going to put that on top of the ramen instead. Yay, me, look at me, right? I'm not saying you did that, Lou, I'm the fine person, but just roll with me, okay? Like I said,
Well, like going back to that buffering list, I said the natural response is to rank them, right? I'm going to trade in a bad buffer for a better buffer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? It's like treating a cough or a cough or a sneeze, a symptom, rather than dealing with the coronavirus, right?
Right.
Are you dealing with the disease and the illness and the emotion, the underlying structure of it all, or are you just trying to cover something up?
Yeah. So this 5-step process we just went over, that is actually cleaning the carpet, is actually getting, to it and getting the noodles off and scrubbing it, and then it's going to leave the carpet cleaner, or that's a bad example because carpet's nasty, you guys. But anyway, instead of just putting a pretty towel on it on top of the old rag, take the time to clean it. And then you can use your pretty towel in the bathroom where it belongs, right?
Yep.
We can buy a new purse and we can enjoy that. And it doesn't have to be about making us happy because we're sad about something else or whatever.
Yeah. And Luann says she loves her purse, and awesome. And when you make those kinds of decisions, say, hey, when I reach a goal or I do X, Y, Z, I'm going to go and buy some new pants or a new purse, or I'm going to do something fun. That is fantastic.
But take some time to actually feel that joy.
Yeah, feel the joy regardless, despite what you're going to do about it. Just sit there and be happy. Be thoughtful. Be sad. Be whatever the emotion is that's coming to you.
Absolutely.
Be human.
So, okay, we've given you guys a lot of things to think about, but when it comes down to it, nitty gritty, what does it take to change? Oops, went the wrong way. There we go. Because we're going to have a lot of different factors when we try to change that will either help us or hold us back. So let's go over some of these change factors. So resistance. Why do we resist? We want control, right? It's one of the human wants there. There is a possibility of failure. You guys, how many of us will resist starting something new or doing something that we really want to do because we might fail? Or it's just the fear. Or our identity is really like, it's firm in the fact that we are who we are. I am how I am, and I can't change it.
Yeah. Why did we put a thermostat on here? Because our identities are like a thermostat. There is an upper limit threshold and a lower limit threshold. So if our life is set at 70 degrees and it goes too high for that threshold, our identity says, oh, I can't do this. It's too hard. It's too much. It's too
out of my
comfort zone, right? So it's going to kick in your AC and it's going to cool your life back off. Thank goodness that our identities also pull us upward. That if we get going too far down a rabbit hole, that the lower limit threshold is also set. But sometimes we have to say, you know what? I'm going to turn my thermostat off Right now,
reset it.
I'm going to reset it at a different temperature. And what does that take? I mean, we're going to talk about a couple of things that how you can reset your thermostat, but this is a huge one. Like anytime you say I am, it's typically followed by an identity statement.
Or I don't.
Or yeah, or I can't, anything like that. I statements, it's like you're stating like, this is who I am. And you're like, and there's this part of our limbic system that says, I can't change that. But the truth of the matter is, we can change that.
So resistance is one of those factors to change. There's resistance out there. Another factor is vision. How big is your vision? How motivational is it? What is it that you really want that you can't attain by playing the same game? Like, do you have this vision that is so compelling that it just gets you up in the morning and your feet hit the floor and you're like, man, I get to work on this today?
And do you have a coach? And what is your willingness to be coached? Are you willing only to be coached your way? Or are you willing to be coached someone else's way that is going to guarantee different results?
What about your dissatisfaction? A lot of people don't think about this, but it's specifically dissatisfaction with the status quo, with how it is now. Because if you're like, oh, well, it's kind of okay. Like, I don't really like it how it is now, but it's like not that bad, I guess. You're not going to change. And what about anxiety of not changing outweighs the fear of change? This is huge with the dissatisfaction.
Huge. So people don't think about the positive side of anxiety, right? 28% of our country has been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. That is frightening. We do everything in life, everything, relationships, health, jobs, everything. We do everything at the level of anxiety that we can tolerate. Anxiety is just our body's way of when we need food, our body says, bing, 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 you're hungry. When our body needs water, it says, bing, 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 you're thirsty. When our body it needs companionship, it says, hey, you're lonely. You need to go find a friend. It's just cues that our body gives us. Anxiety is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
How we deal with it and the skills that we learn to manage anxiety is where people struggle. If we can learn to manage that anxiety, we can say, oh, our anxiety is this around getting healthier. Why is it that? Well, typically, our anxiety matches a lack of skill set or a lack of support. So if we don't feel like we have the skills to do something or the support to do something, we're naturally going to feel anxiety.
Well, and here's the thing. To Jared's point earlier, most people don't want to feel their emotions,
right?
And they don't want to feel their dissatisfaction. So here's what happens. Dissatisfaction is a huge factor for change. And what do?
We cover it up with a towel.
We cover it up with a rag or a fancier towel, depending on what your buffering method that you believe is. So you will numb your dissatisfaction and you will deny your pain and dissatisfaction. And that is exactly part of the factor that you need to change.
Here's a common greeting. Hey, how are you doing? Common response, fine. Fine is just the rag covering the dirty ramen on the floor.
And then another factor is knowing your first steps. So you must have a way to actualize what you want. This is the what and the how it's going to happen. But here's the trap. People will say, oh, I really want to change. I just don't know how. Right? Okay, that is a red flag. That's an excuse to avoid your resistance. right there. Because very typically, 9 times out of 10, if those other factors are high enough, then the how and the what will present itself. So I'm going to put this scary formula on here, but I already went over these, so just stick with me. I even like math, and this formula scared me at first. But your vision times the dissatisfaction that you are allowing yourself to feel.
How big of a life you want, how much you can imagine your life being great and terrific and fantastic, multiplied by how dissatisfied you are with where you're currently at.
Yep.
Think accurately, again, not positively, accurately about how you actually feel where you are currently.
Plus, knowing your first steps. If all of that part of the equation, if this part of the equation, your vision, your dissatisfaction for the status quo, plus knowing your first steps, if that's all bigger than the resistance, your identity, what you think about yourself, your control issues, all the things.
What you think's possible.
If that's bigger than your resistance, guess what happens?
Change.
Change happens. That's supposed to be a heart. Then change happens. You guys, it's not brain surgery. Okay? And are you buffering this dissatisfaction? You buffering that? You not allowing yourself to feel the emotions in your life? Are you not allowing yourself to dream bigger and to actually verbalize what you want?
You can buffer vision too.
Heck yeah, you can.
Yeah.
It's too big. I can't handle.
It's too big. I've got too much anxiety around this big vision. And so you buffer it and you pull yourself back down.
Yeah.
Or you hang out with other people who you know will pull you down.
Mm-hmm. So true. Are you ready to make those changes? And in Optavia, this is what we do. Our very first phone call, okay, this happens so often, you guys. People go, can you just tell me how much the program costs? It's like, first of all, we need to start with your vision. What do you want to create? That would be like a doctor handing out prescriptions and they never even talk to a patient. That's just craziness. Okay?
Yet it happens.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that. Here in Optavia, we talk to you and get a vision of what you want. And also, we ask you where you're at currently. This is what our health assessment is about. We're going to do that before we give you the first steps. We're going to sit down with you and say, okay, what do you want to create? Okay, we're going to support you in that. We're going to give you your first steps. We're going to match you up with a program. We're going to match you up with a way that makes it simple and straightforward. And we're going to teach you the long-term education and mindset things that you need to be successful long-term. That's what it's about, you guys. It's not just about knowing. It's not just about the first steps. People go straight there, usually. Well, I just need to go to the library and check out a book about diet. Okay, you could try that along with millions of other people that tried that and didn't work. Okay.
Yeah, so recently I'm a social science nerd. That's what my education is in. So I still love to listen to social scientists and read research and so forth. I recently listened to a talk given by a social researcher by the name of Kimberly Smith. And she talked about she's been researching happiness, essentially, and people's behaviors around happiness and fulfillment for 3 decades. And she said that the one thing that has been the greatest deterrent of actual happiness has been the pursuit of happiness. Like the chase. When you're chasing something, like you're chasing your kid or your dog or something like that, it means that they're running away from you. When you're in this attitude or this aggressive chase of something, it's going to elude you. And rather, she talked about inviting. You hand a dog treat, or you put your hands out in a loving, inviting way to a child or a human being. You reach your hand out to shake their hands. Not right now, for the next little while, but it's so interesting. She said, what I found in the most happy people that I researched, they were actually in the pursuit of meaning rather than the pursuit of happiness. And she broke it down into 4 areas of meaning. The first area of meaning was belonging. In Octavia, we are all about belonging. We have a terrific community of people who have each other's backs. We're there to find out what their goals and their dreams are and share ours with them and share this journey together. Not to hero each other, but to coach and support and challenge and ask questions and be co-creators with. The second area was she talked about purpose. And she found that they were involved in something that was bigger than themselves, which led to transcendence, what she called transcendence. And it's the moments in life where your sense of self fades away and you're just like part of the energy of something big, right? And the fourth one was stories. We talked about stories earlier, and she's talked specifically about reshaping or reframing our stories. The facts don't change, but our perspective does. The example that she gave was a college football player who suffered a spinal cord injury during a game, and his first few years after being paralyzed, the story he told himself was, my life used to be so big. I walked out onto that football field and everybody knew who I was. I was going to be a professional athlete. I was going to make millions of dollars. The world was huge. Everybody knew me, right? He had a mentor get a hold of him, but he was depressed and he was sad and his life was over. A mentor got a hold of him and showed him what his life could be. And now he travels all around the world, speaking primarily to youth groups. And now his story is, my life used to be so small. My entire world was a field that measured 50 yards by 100 yards. I didn't know any of the people outside that field. Many of them knew me, but I didn't know them. I wasn't a part of their life. They weren't a part of my life. Now, my life is huge. I get to travel all around the world and help kids reframe their stories. And that's what we do in Octavia through our 4 components, through coaching and community, our habits of health system. And we teach people how to fuel their lives, fuel their bodies physically, but how to fuel their minds and their spirits and their finances.
So let's take a poll before we close up here. Which area of the change formula do you get stuck most often? Is your vision sometimes not big enough? Your dissatisfaction from the status quo, maybe you buffer that away, or it's just not big enough. Or maybe you don't know your first steps, or maybe the resistance in your life is too big. Take a minute and just vote on that. Which area, the change formula, do you typically get stuck? I'll give you another few seconds to vote. All right, so it looks like 37% of you, vision. Your vision isn't big enough. Why don't you connect with the person who invited you on this and do a health assessment? Talk about your vision with someone else. Sometimes you need to get it from here out here. Maybe you need to create a vision board. Maybe you need to write down pen to paper what you want to create. Dissatisfaction. same thing. Talk to your coach. Really get like real with current reality where you're at right now, and stop lying about whether or not you're happy about it. We're fine. First steps. If you don't know your first steps, we got some first steps for you. Don't you worry. And then resistance, that was 41% of you said resistance tends to be too big. Your identity, the control factor, the fear of failure.
Anxiety, overwhelm, stress.
Yeah. It's so interesting how each one of these factors plays such a huge role in being able to actually change if that's what you want. So just to close up, we wanted to thank you guys for hopping on, for spending a couple hours with us on a Saturday. We know that many of you were planning to join us live in person all day today in Kaysville for our Modify Your Mindset conference. But the good news is we have postponed several of our conferences. So stay tuned for those. But we have some coming up. Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, St. George, Kaysville is rescheduled to May 30th. We would love to see you guys there. And we would love for you to join us at National Convention. If you like what you've heard today, come and see our company in full action that we're going to be having in Atlanta in July 23rd through the 26th. Get together with your community. This is that's part of that factor of success. Part of that change formula is being able to get out of your comfort zone and to start working on these things that are going to move you to that next level. They're going to help you create what you want in your life, not because you're broken, not because you're wrong, not because what you are is not enough, because you are. You are enough. And what do you want to create? You're an artist. An artist doesn't say, boy, there's not enough art, so I better fill the walls up with lots of art because it's scarce in art. No, they do it because it's just fulfilling and it's wonderful and it's creative, and we're put on this earth to create. And that's what we want for you too, to create the goodness and the life that you really want. Any last words, Jared?
We appreciate you guys being part of our community. We're inspired by all of you, and grateful for you guys being on, having us, allowing us to share a few things that we've learned that have created more richness and fulfillment in our own lives.
Absolutely. And if you would like to get a free booklet download with some of the concepts that we talked about today, then I put it in the chat, and we'll put that in also the Facebook event, a form to fill out so you can get that free booklet download that you would have gotten today as a registered person for the event. So we're just so happy that you've joined us, and thank you so much. We love you guys. Stay healthy. Wash your hands. See you later.